Welcome to Winder Works, the official podcast of the City of Winder. Join us today as we go behind the scenes to learn from the people, projects, and progress shaping our community. Now, let's get ready to dive into the initiatives that make Winder a great place to live, work, and visit. Well, welcome everyone to this month's edition of the Winder Works podcast. Thank you all for joining us. This month, our guest is the City of Winder's Utilities Director, Mr. Horace Gee, and we're very happy to have him. I think it'll be a very insightful conversation, and we'll just go ahead and jump right in and let's go ahead and welcome Mr. Horace to the podcast.
Glad to be here. Looking forward to it. Winder is it's sort of become home, and the utilities, you never know what you're going to face each day when you come in.
I understand that. Well, as we get started, can you just tell us a little bit about Horace and his background and how you came to get involved in the world of utilities?
Well, I guess it really all started back when I was really a youngster. One of my uncles was the utilities director for the city of Gainesville, and way back when there wasn't as many employees, and so on Sundays when we'd be out on the lake enjoying the lake in Gainesville on Lake Lanier, we would actually pull up to, because believe it or not, the utilities director covered the wastewater treatment plant on the weekends. Would go by and check things out. So it was a little bit of hands-on for them, and we would routinely dock our boat there at the Linwood facility at the city of Gainesville, and go up and have lunch and just sort of hang out with him. So I got a wild hair. I wanted to follow in his footsteps, from those experiences. And so, I was really always pretty good with math, in chemistry, biology in school. And so when I went to college, that was my focus, was environmental science. And so that's a little bit about how I came into this type business.
So I'll go ahead and ask the question that people that are listening to this are probably thinking to themselves. So you had lunch at a wastewater treatment facility on a Sunday?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, so we'll just kind of skip around here, and can you explain to everyone, because the next question is that safe to do, and explain to people why it is actually not a bad thing?
With the technology, it's evolved so much over the years. When I was talking about we were docking our boat and spending a little time on the banks at a wastewater facility, that was back in the early 70s, and I've just I'm amazed still today of how things has progressed, the technology, and how things have come along. Back then, really, the treatment, you might not have the best experiences sitting on the banks of the lake back then, but today with the technology that's available, working or being around inside or outside a wastewater treatment facility is as sanitary, really, as being in a water plant.
Mm-hmm. So what does a typical day look like in your world in utilities and Winder, and what utilities do we provide to our residents and customers?
Well, in Winder, it's multifaceted. We here in Winder, we actually provide natural gas, water, and wastewater. And one of the new forthcoming utilities that people really have not thought about for the last really 100 years, they put pipes in the ground 100 years ago to move water off their yards, off the driveways and stuff. Didn't think nothing about it. Nowadays, it's a very important factor, and the new utility that we deal with each and every day is stormwater. So we've got really 4 major utilities that we deal with each and every day that keeps the area safe.
So that's a good point, and something that personally drives me a little crazy, because I know enough to be dangerous about stormwater. How do you talk to someone and say you're riding around during the day and you see that person blowing their limbs, blowing their leaves right down that storm drain? What does that do to a system? Why do we not want people to do that?
Well, it for years, it was the easy thing, but nowadays, a lot of your larger landscape companies they teach it each and every day to their staff. Not to do that, to blow it into a pile, to gather it up and put it in a tarp or in a trash receptacle, and not put it down the pipes, because you routinely, if you're out walking around in town here or in any jurisdiction around North Georgia or Georgia anywhere, you'll see the manholes when you walk across along the sidewalks. You'll see them, says this flows to stream. It'll have like a fish or notations of fish on them or insignias of, and so anything that we put down that eventually is going to make it into our state waters, and once we get it into that conveyance system, eventually it's going to make it into larger bodies of water, which is ultimately our drinking water source. So it's very important not to do that, because it causes us problems each and every day in the water world, the drinking water world. When everybody wants a nice plush yard, they pour the fertilizer to it, but when they take those clippings and they get down into the conveyance system, make it ultimately into a reservoir or a lake, it causes phosphorus issues, and it causes algae blooms and stuff on the waters. Makes it very difficult on us in treating the water to return it back to our citizens as drinking water.
That makes perfect sense, and that's I think you hit the nail right on the head there. Right, when you see somebody doing it, it's not good for our system, and the more people that do it, the more it impacts what we do every day. So how would you tell someone coming in off the street how our water, stormwater, and sewer impact our residents on a daily basis? Stuff that they cannot see, that they just take for granted, such as flushing your toilet, washing your dishes, your clothes, your kids taking a bath.
Yeah, I mean, everybody, it's just it's common knowledge now, they think it's just young people think it's magic, but we're out in the schools routinely trying to educate, because the earlier that we educate our citizens, our children, about the important aspects of our water resources, the more sustainability we've got. And so when people think they turn the tap on, they expect to have water. When they flush the toilet, they expect to have that. But, they don't realize that behind the scenes, how much work, how much effort is put forth 24/7, 365. When we had we had a couple small snow events earlier this year, and everybody sort of just went in lockdown mode. In the water and the wastewater and even stormwater world, and especially our gas, our utilities, our gas utilities, they expect to be warm, they expect to have water. There's a lot going on behind the scenes each and every day, 24/7, to make sure that our citizens, that when they desire to be warm, when they desire to have a drink of water, to flush a toilet, that the resources are there and it's available. And it takes a lot of work from a lot of people. We have in Winder about 20,000 connections to our water system that supplies water to about 50 to 60,000 customers, and so we got a very large system for such a small community, and so there's a lot of people dependent on us for our services.
So I'm glad you said that. Can you kind of expand on what people may not see from our employees during a weather event, during a time where they're sheltered in place essentially during a snowstorm or during an anticipated thunderstorm? You all don't have that luxury. Can you kind of explain to people y'all's process for making sure that services are not interrupted to the best way possible?
Yes, sir. I mean, that is really that's when we have all hands on deck. I mean, we have staff working, like I say, 24/7, and we have different shifts of employees that covers the different aspects. But back in September, we got skirted by a hurricane that was just devastating to South Georgia and to our friends north of us up in the western North Carolina area, and it could have easily diverted and come right through here, and we were set. We were ready for that. I mean, you never be 100% ready, but we have backup generators. We have redundant power sources. We have a lot of stuff in place that will help us, but all of that is not when you really have some kind of catastrophic event like what happened with that. And when that happens, like I say, you mentioned most people locked down during that time. That is when we're at our best at that time. We're staged around throughout the city, on the outskirts of the city, around the county, so that we're ready, because our water system is not only, our water, sewer, and our gas is not just right here in downtown Winder. We actually extend way outside the city limits with our services. And so during that time, it's all hands on deck, and so we're prepared as best we can be to make sure that those services are not interrupted.
And that's things that people probably take for granted, that they can be home and the kids are out during the summer, and they can understand that, hey, we have more taxing on our services. And so if I'm going to build a subdivision, a new development of, say, 330 some odd new homes, how do they go about getting water service? Say if there's no water there, but they know that the city serves it, what do they need to do? What do people not see about, hey, I got a new house and I got water, but they didn't see the 17 steps in front of that to get the water?
Yeah, I mean, it all starts with just applying, just going online to the city's website and just make an application for availability of whatever services you desire for that development, whether it's water, gas, or sewer. And once we get that, then we start evaluating what services we have available for them and what kind of impact it's going to have on our system. And after we start that evaluation, which that's early on, that's in the infant stage of the development, but we make a determination then and work with the developer so that both parties, both the developer and the city, is aware and knows what needs to take place in order to have utility services for 300 plus homes. It's not like it's not like you can just do it overnight. When you start talking about a development of that size, it has many twists and turns, many roads that and has to be done. So our utilities, we're sort of on the front end of that. When before they start building the first home, once the clearing's done, then we put our utilities in the ground, or the developer puts the utilities in the ground to our specifications, and we just inspect it routinely to make sure that it's all being installed, because eventually it's going to be property of the cities, and we'll be maintaining it for perpetuity. And but it is a very complicated and a very time-consuming process.
Absolutely. So, how do you all, from a utility standpoint, because we know that these supplies are not infinite. We only have so much water. We only have so much capacity. We only have so much natural gas that we can supply people. How do you all determine priorities and kind of start projecting future growth to understand capacity and where we might hit that wall?
That is where we have our tabletop exercises. We actually work with some consultants that we have. We do water, wastewater, as well as gas. The gas authority is very instrumental in our planning for our gas expansion and our gas customers. But on the water and wastewater side, it's more hands-on for our staff, and so we develop, and it's a fluid model. We develop a master plan for our utilities, both water and sewer. And meaning, I'm saying it's fluid because it's ever changing, because, we can make our best stab at having infrastructure in place. But then we have a large development come along, and what we put in place 5 years ago with a 6-inch water main or a 6-inch sewer main, all of a sudden it needs to be upgraded to a 10 or a 12-inch. So we do our best efforts in putting together a model. But there is so many components that go into that we are routinely getting it out. It's not something we do and stick on the shelf. It's actually our guidance model for making sure we've got the services available for our citizens.
So this is just a question and opinion for Horace. From a utility standpoint, from a system standpoint, what is better for a system such as the one Winder has? Would it be commercial growth or residential growth?
Well, I mean, you have to balance both commercial and residential. I've been, I'm gonna date myself a little bit. I mean, this is 38 years I've been doing this, and if you only had just residential growth, yes, that's all fine and dandy, but you've got to have jobs. You've got to have industry and commercial growth to keep those people wanting, for them to have a reason to come to Winder. And when we have commercial or industrial developments, because of the way our system is set up, it's what sort of helps keep the rates down for our citizens when we have those kind of investments in the community, both via the tax base, but also on our water. Because if just our local residential customers were having to foot the bill for the type of investments it takes to have a sustainable utility, the rates would be so much that they couldn't really afford the service that we would desire to provide. So you got to balance it, and it's a balancing act each and every day, and that's why we work closely with our elected officials, so that we can help them and make those decisions on what's going to impact our system.
Then that just perfectly goes into the next question. What should our residents know about how their utility fees are used? They say, we pay this much for water, we pay this much for sewer, we pay this much for stormwater. What could you tell them about how that fee is used and how it actually benefits them? Would they pay it every month?
Yeah, I mean, you think that, after I put the line in the ground, it's done, and so, it's there for 100 years. That's not the case. I mean, our infrastructure that we put in place about every 25 years, if we have not had some other cause to replace it, it's got to be replaced, because our 25 to 50 years is the max life for our water lines, whether it be PVC or ductile iron pipes. And our rates, way our rate structure is set up, we take our total cost of operating our system, we take the cost of our projection of what it's going to take to maintain our system to the standards that we expect it to be and our customers expect it to be, and all of those calculations go into setting our rates. and so about 95%, about 5% of the revenue from our water and sewer goes into the general fund for the city because of benefits that we, the utilities, receive from assistance from the administration, from HR, from other departments. But the rest of it goes directly into our daily operations and our future replacement and expansions.
Okay. And I'll jump in to clarify in case anyone listening, if their ears just perked up. When you said some of the money goes into the general fund, that's for things such as processing payroll, processing checks, human resources, just those tasks that help support the utilities department. And,
Absolutely.
And I think that people need to kind of understand that it doesn't go the other way around. Their property taxes don't go to support the utilities department. You guys are what's called a fee-for-service department, an enterprise fund. And so the property taxes that people pay, like you guys don't get any benefit from that. You guys are having to be self-funded. So the cost that people see, that is what it costs to run the system, to treat the water, to make sure you can take a shower without getting some sort of an infection. And you guys do an amazing job at that. So now we're gonna get to a couple fun questions as we get toward the end here. What's your favorite project you've ever worked on and why?
Well, actually, I'm one I'm working on right now.
I knew that was coming.
Yeah, one that the city of Winder. It's multifaceted. We're in the process of converting an old quarry into a water supply storage reservoir, and here in Winder, it's a major undertaking. It's a major expense for a city, a utility the size of Winder to absorb. But when you're looking at sustainability, as you mentioned a couple times earlier during our interview, water is not an infinite supply. And where we get our water, currently we get our water out of the Mulberry River, and there's a lot of other utilities dependent on that water source. And so what we're looking at for in the future, we're right now we're about 50% complete with this major project. We have added a couple more components to the actual construction process over the last couple months. And once we have this reservoir complete, we'll actually have basically a big concrete bowl that will hold 1 billion with a B.
That's a B, right?
With a B. Yes, I want to emphasize we're not in millions anymore. We're talking 1 billion gallons of water, which would be enough to supply our current and future needs as we have projected. The amount of water in that reservoir would supply our citizens for 1 year. If we did not get any more rain during that entire year, we would have a resource to keep providing water to our customers for this investment.
That's an amazing project. And there's a partnership with another city in our area that can kind of be talked to a little bit as well, to kind of show how, projects, like you said, can be multifaceted, that they can, share in the good, that it doesn't have to be a win-lose, that there can be a win-win for a couple of entities. Can you kind of expound on that just briefly?
Well, absolutely. I mean, when you're talking about something like this, not to make light of it, but we're talking between ourselves and Auburn. We have partnered with Auburn to do this project, and the investment for the two utilities, the two cities, is going to be somewhere in the $70 to $90 million range. So that's one component. The money is one component of it, but the other is our regulator at the state level, EPD. They would not even permit if it was only just for one entity. It'd be very difficult to get a permit to do a project similar to this. What they look at nowadays is a regional a plan to supply water, because they've got to, when they issue the permits for withdrawal from state waters, and whether our citizens know it or not, if it's water in a ditch, or if it's in a tributary, or if it's in a stream or a river or a lake, it's state waters. Yep. We may think, and you may think, that stream in your backyard is yours. The authorities at EPD would tell you otherwise, and so they really ultimately control that, and they want partnerships between utilities, between cities, between counties, because they realize that this is not an infinite supply, and it's a very precious resource, and they want people to work together, utilities to work together, for the better of the community.
Well, that's an amazing project, and I'm glad that you're here to be a part of that, and can't wait to see it get toward the end. Earlier, you kind of mentioned the change in processes and how technology has kind of changed the way that utilities operate. How does it play a role today compared to maybe 30 years ago, which would have just been 1995? Cell phones were already out, computers, AOL, all the dial-up connections were there. How does it compare to just 30 years ago and with what you all do?
Well, nowadays, the quality of water coming off, because of the permit limits that EPD, EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, puts on waters being returned back to state waters, the limits are so tight that you could just about, it's all a perception. It's a citizen perception. If we can ever change that, we will have a sustainable source of water for the next 50 to 100 years off of just what we have today, because I'm talking about wastewater treatment. The technology at wastewater treatment plants nowadays is to a point that if you took a beaker of water off the end of the discharge from a wastewater plant and set it beside a beaker of water from our drinking water plant, you would not know a difference in the two sources of water. If we took the shell game and mixed them up a little bit, you would not know which beaker was holding wastewater or which was holding drinking water. We're actually, when we treat water at the wastewater level nowadays, we're actually making the quality of the water in the streams or the lakes that we're returning it to, we're actually diluting that source because the water is so pure that's being returned.
So what you're saying is we're giving back better than what we get.
Absolutely, we're giving back 100% better than we get, and the technology is already out there. We use it here in Winder. We have a resource. The city has a golf course, as a lot of the people in the community is aware of, the chimneys, and when you see that nice lush facade out there, the greens, the fairways, from maybe April till about October. That's being watered by water from our wastewater treatment plant at Marburg. And the quality of that water is as good as, almost as good as the quality of water if we were putting actually potable water on that. So we're actually already in ways we're reusing wastewater. And the technology is just going to continue to evolve. We actually have a plan with our reservoir that we have talked about earlier. We're going to have an extra line in place when we're done with this project. Just soon as EPD, and they are in the process now, the evaluation, helping sort of educate the citizens of Georgia to the purity of wastewater. We're going to have the opportunity to start pumping water from our wastewater plants in the near future, not now, don't jump to the conclusions, but in the near future, we'll be able to send some of our treated wastewater, into our reservoir for our drinking water, and basically make it just a closed loop system that is coming down the road. The industry is making big strides each and every day, and it is to make sustainable, safe drinking water.
That's amazing. You kind of touched on essentially using our golf course, the Chimneys, as what's called a spray field. Do you have any numbers, like just to kind of tell people how many millions of gallons of water we reduce our permit by not putting it into our system, by spraying it on the golf course to keep that clean?
It's about a million and a half gallons of water a day from April to October that we're using. So just think, if we was taking we produce right now about 5 million gallons of water a day at our drinking water plant. The golf course needs about 1 million to 1.5 million gallons a day to keep it lush as it is each and every day. And just think, if we was having to take that drinking water to do that, to water that golf course with, what kind of impact it would ultimately have on our supply of water and our ability to grow our system. But with the opportunity that we have, and with the permits that we have issued by the state, we're able to take that water from our wastewater treatment facility and apply it on that golf course. So it's multifaceted. We're putting a utility back on the ground to keep that entity of the city's lush, and we're not having to waste that resource.
And that's a really good point, where that does allow for less stress on our system, where it does allow those 330 homes or your next shopping center to be able to come in, because you've cleared up that capacity room and you're using our own resources. So that's an amazing thing. And wow, I didn't even know it was over 1 million gallons during the peak season, that 6 month period. And I'm not a math major, but that equates to maybe close to 180 million gallons of reuse water that we're putting out there, and that's an amazing accomplishment. So as we kind of get toward the end here, is there anything you want the public to know that they may not know or they may take for granted? You kind of sometimes you want to operate under the radar and just let people assume, but knowing what I know about government and what people do on an everyday basis, I think the public would be amazed at some of the tasks that you all do just routinely every day.
Yeah, I mean, certainly we, just a couple weeks ago, we had our annual touch a truck, and we had one of our excavators out there for the community to see, and we have a number of those in our fleet. We have a crew of about 40 technicians that's out working 8-10 hours a day. Occasionally we had a water line burst up around Matthews School Road about a month ago, and I had crews there for 30 hours without leaving, the same guys working. So we're working to keep the water flowing, to keep safe drinking water. And, as I said, we reach out to our schools, we educate our youth. But if anyone in our community would like to know more about water, wastewater, stormwater, how it all works, or even our gas system, our utilities facility at 138 Sweetwater Trail, we have an open door policy from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. The open door policy we have, if someone wants to learn more about the resources we have, or about conservation, or about environmental issues, you name it, we're here. We work for you. We're an enterprise operation, but we work for you, the citizens of Winder, of Barrow County, and our door is open. Just reach out to us if with any needs or concerns that you have.
That's great. And you kind of mentioned something, and I'm remiss if I don't bring it up. The City of Winder posted something on our LinkedIn page regarding essentially a utilities rodeo. And I believe you have something that you'd like to share about that, about your team was able to accomplish and do there that day.
Yeah, some of the guys we got, out of the 40, as I mentioned, 40 utility technicians, most all of them can really do about any job that we have to be done. But we have some that are we call our leaders, our experts, and it's amazing what they can do with one of those Mini X we have, the Kubota Mini X that we have in our fleet. But they were actually at a rodeo down in Macon just a few weeks back, and two of our technicians, two of our operators. A rodeo is not. It's not horses and cows, but they do these rodeos with equipment, and with this Mini X, with this tractor, they were retrieving balls anywhere from the size of a baseball up to the size of a basketball, and having to maneuver it around and put it into a bucket, depending on the size of the ball that they've retrieved. And they was under a time, and so the winners were determined by the number, the time it took them to get all the balls in all the buckets. And here in Winder last year, we sent a crew down. They came home third out of about 100 utilities, and they were very upset. They have, on rainy days and even on their own times, they have been practicing over the last year. And so when they went down this year, they went with a vengeance. They was going to bring that trophy back to Winder, and they did. And there's a video that our communications team has posted. If you'll watch it, you'll see the precision that these guys can work with this equipment. That is why they can work with both water, gas, and in the same ditch line, and not really compromise our systems. And so it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, but we have staff that is willing and actually desires to put forth that level of effort to be the best.
And I can't tell you how appreciative we are of that. And yeah, if you all have not seen the video, I encourage everyone listening to go watch that video. I can tell you there's a reason they don't let me drive the equipment. You can see it when you see these people driving it, what we do on an everyday basis, and how grateful we are of that. And I'll brag on our utilities department as we wrap up. They also had their annual gas monitoring done several months ago, and our entire gas system came back with 0 findings, which is very impressive. I'll let Horace speak to that a little bit about how rare that is to not have any findings on a survey like that.
Well, actually, I will, and I'll expand on a new award that we just received 2 weeks ago as well. But yes, our PSC, Public Service Commission audit that we had done back in October, there were 700 items on the checklist, and not a single deficiency. Our elected officials, our administrator, and our mayor acknowledged that at one of our recent council meetings. But to hear the staff from the PSC tell us that how rare that was, I just made sure that our officials took the opportunity to acknowledge that effort from our staff, because it's not something that's taken lightly. And I was so proud of that effort they put forth. And also one other award that we will be putting on the city's website any day now, but at the JWP, Georgia Association of Water Professionals Spring Conference, the city of Winder got the award this year for the best tasting drinking water in the state of Georgia. And now we're progressing on to the national level of American Water Works Association in Texas in a few weeks. But Winder, the city of Winder, has the best tasting water in the state of Georgia.
I think that's probably something we're gonna brag about. That I can see more information coming out about that, and by the time this podcast is live, I am hoping that we have got some national recognition for the hard work that you all do. And as we close, Horace, I can't tell you how appreciative I am, that staff is, and hopefully all of our residents are, for what you all do on an everyday basis, because I don't think people understand, and they don't need to understand, but they do need to have some sort of knowledge of how they get their water, how they heat their house, and the impacts of what they do every day can kind of impact everybody else. So as we close, I just want to say thank you, and we definitely appreciate you all and what you do on an everyday basis. And as Horace said, go see him, 138 Sweetwater. Go stop in, go talk to him. If you have any questions, please reach out to him. And again, thank you, Horace. And I'll ask you if you have anything else as we close out.
Well, we just want you to know, whether it's the normal 8 to 5, as I mentioned earlier, or if it's any time of the night or weekend, if you call our number, we have someone to receive that call. And typically our response to emergencies is 15 to 20 minutes, which is tremendous. So if you have an issue, regardless how big or how small it may be, regardless of the time or the day of the week, let us know. We are here for you.
Well, that's great, and I know everyone appreciates it, and we really appreciate how you just chimed in and let everyone know how Winder really works for them. So thank you, Horace, and that's it for this edition of Winder Works. We'll see you all next month. Thanks for listening to Winder Works. We hope you enjoyed the show today. Stay informed by following the City of Winder on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And make sure to visit www.cityofwinder.com to learn more about Winder, the City of Opportunity.